Greenhouse people? We are back with another episode of Tech on Demand, where our goal is always to help you grow your best crops ever. I'm your host, Bill Calkins, and throughout 2026, I've been catching up with different people in the professional horticulture industry to find out a little bit about their careers, their passions, their journeys in the world of plants, and much more. I'm calling these conversations Pick 4 because I sent each guest a list of 12 questions, and yep, they picked 4 to answer and discuss. And although this episode will no doubt be amazing, I do want to encourage you to jump back in the archives and listen to the previous ones as well. I think the range of guests and their experiences really highlights how awesome our industry is. And speaking of awesome, today I am excited to be joined by my friend Kelly Nicholas, the head of North American Technical Services at Doom and Orange. Kelly and I have been friends for a long time, and it's been fun to watch her ascend through the various roles in the industry all the way to her current job running technical services for a huge company like Dooman. I'm sure the lessons learned on this trajectory are going to come up during the episode, but that's enough out of me. Kelly, welcome to the podcast.
Hi, Bill. Thanks for having me. Excited to be here and chat with you today.
For sure. Before we get started, can you tell the listeners a little bit about what a day in the life of a technical services lead looks like? Because you probably, I know you work with a team here in North America. You work with offshore production farms, all the domestic young plant producers in your guys' network. I was thinking about it, how many hours are in your day? It just sounds crazy. What's a day look like for you?
Yeah, it can be crazy, and you covered it really well. Those are all the areas in which I interact and work. So basically the technical team, which also includes myself, are sort of liaisons between our customers, the growers, and our production farms offshore. So we gather lots of data, lots of intel, feedback from both trips to customers and talking to them through emails, text messages, WhatsApps, photos, all kinds of different things. And we take the information to the farms and make the necessary changes if we can, alter something, and then bring that change or timeline back to the customer to kind of close the loop. So we work in mostly a closed loop system, which has really helped the customer know what we're doing and to know that they're heard, which I think is really important. And in my day, I can be doing a lot of different things, talking to customers, as I mentioned, working with our team here at Doom and Orange, mostly the sales managers who are on the road, helping them liaison with customers and answer questions. The trials department also falls under my view. So we're doing trials, setting up trials, sending trials to customers, finished samples that will be coming to you very soon. So lots to do. I really have to put guardrails around my day, or I could work 24 hours a day.
For sure.
We work through lots of different time zones. Mm-hmm. So the off button is never there really unless I put the off button on. So that's really, I guess, how I would describe it.
And so you've had in your past, you've worked as a grower, and again, probably a job that if you don't have the ability to put up those guardrails can be a 24-hour-a-day job.
Yeah.
Do you think those skills translated? Did you learn a lot when you were working in production that you use now day to day in terms of time management?
100%. I would say the skills translated. I've always been a pretty good time manager or able to at least multitask effectively. Sure. I'm not sure we really should be multitaskers, but I seem to do it pretty effectively. Funny enough, I get things done really well under pressure. So sometimes we wait until the last minute to do items that are on the to-do list, but nevertheless, it gets done pretty successfully. I would say that you also have to have guardrails as a grower, but I had a harder time putting them on because the plants don't wait. And you're responsible when you're in production you're responsible for the number, right? For the sale. If your plants don't live or if something goes wrong or if the greenhouse alarm goes off at 2 a.m., if you don't react, that's somebody's pocketbook. True. So I feel like the pressure to be on, if you will, 24/7 as a grower was higher, especially during the season. And I was working 7 days a week in my last jobs during the busy times. So I actually feel a lot more work-life balance here at Dooman, which is funny for me to say out loud because if I really think about it, sometimes I don't have a lot of balance, but what it's allowed me to do is spend more time with family because I can work I can work remotely. I'm not from Ohio. I wasn't from Chicago when I lived there. So I've been able to see my father a lot more, my family. Yeah, and just not be stuck or tethered. So
Right.
that's the cool part.
Well, and it probably gives you a lot of empathy for all the growers that you work with, and the fact that a lot of times the answer or the questions that your technical team gets are super time critical and could save that grower from being at the greenhouse at 2, 3, 4 in the morning.
100%. And I think it's exactly that makes me have a hard time at this time of year putting a guardrail on.
True.
Because if I can answer the question, I'm going to try to answer the
Hmm.
question. Because it's just really important. And it's important for the industry that we have good plants to sell,
Hmm.
to keep the consumers coming back. And, so that's what I do.
No, I love it. I love it. And tons of respect to you and your whole team and everyone who works in technical services
Yeah.
across our industry. It's a job that could feel thankless, but I think is so critical, and you guys are so relied upon. Mycorrhizal Applications is recognized as the master distributor of a portfolio of biological and botanical plant support solutions and the world's leading supplier of mycorrhizal soil inoculants. Backed by industry-leading research and advanced production, they deliver innovative products that support plant health, performance, and vigor. They're known across the industry for popular brands like MycoApply, AmiloShield, and Debug. Mycorrhizal Applications offers proven solutions tailored to every growing operation. To learn more or find a distributor, visit mycorrhiza.com. So you mentioned that you're not from Ohio or Chicago, and I know, is the fun fact, you're from Montana.
I
So my
am.
question is, and I love Montana. I've been there, once or twice in my life to go hiking, so I know everything about the state.
I
My
bet you
question
do.
is, did everybody that you grow up with ride a horse to school?
I'm from a one stoplight town, and we definitely hitch our horses to the bar hitching post because there's just not many cars. But no, seriously, no, we did not ride horses to school. I'm sure there's people in the rural schools, the K through 8 is all in one classroom. Maybe
Yeah.
they do, but
Okay.
I did not. But certainly I did grow up in Montana in a pretty rural town, about 3,000 people.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Well, I don't know. I think it's awesome. I love Montana. I was just picking on you. But
Yeah.
I do think maybe this will be a good segue into the first question that you chose, which is, what was your first exposure to horticulture and how did you feel or react or respond?
Yeah. I think my first exposure, because I have pictures to prove it, was when I was really young, maybe 3 or 4. Lots of pictures of me in either my grandfather's or my dad's garden, smelling the roses, like nose deep in the
Yeah.
roses and in other flowers. So also, eating dirt and spooning water out of big feed trough things at the
Mhm.
farm. So just I was exposed early. And I think the outdoors and plants did help shape my childhood. We were kids who left in the morning in the summertime and rode our bikes somewhere and didn't come back until our mom whistled at night. So lots of time in the outdoors, which I think kind of is a lost thing,
For
but I
sure.
wouldn't trade it. And then I always loved science, always loved math in school. In fact, I thought I was going to be a chemist until I took my first chemistry class in a huge, lecture hall and went, nope, this is not for me. But then fell into an intro to botany class, and really the rest is history.
So what was your major in college?
I studied horticulture for an undergrad degree and
Okay.
then went to postgrad and have a master's degree in plant science,
Okay.
where I was trying to decide if flowers were the way of my future or if agriculture crops were, and studied with 2 different spring wheat breeders. Yes, the bred kind. And one of them was a molecular breeder and one of them was a classic breeder. And both were very interesting, but when it came time to decide what I wanted to do, dragging pipe in a sugar beet field didn't sound as nice as working with flowers. So that's how we got here.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool. And I love that your first exposure was in dad and grandpa's garden with
Yeah.
roses. I think it's a good place for any kid to be, and there's a lot of lessons to be learned in the garden and with dad and grandpa. So that's super
Yeah.
cool. All right. On to question number 2. What are 3 tools you could not live without or couldn't do your job without? And as I said, these can be hand tools. It could be technology, just three tools that you use that you couldn't live without.
Yeah. This is a good question, and I gave it some thought, but the first two really popped into my head fast. The first is my Outlook calendar.
Okay.
It like rules my life down to the minute sometimes. As we discussed in the beginning, I'm kind of on, can be 24/7 sometimes. And so if I don't know where I'm supposed to be or where I'm going or what time that meeting is or what time I scheduled a personal appointment at, things can get pretty messy. So my Outlook calendar is for sure number one. The second one I would say is also something on my phone is my notes app. I never could make it work walking a greenhouse to try to take photos and write in a notebook all at the same time and manage where my hands go and trying to walk in a straight line behind whoever I'm walking with. I simply open my notes app and put a heading in there, and then I take notes straight in my phone, take
Okay.
whatever pictures I need to, and then when I'm finished with the visit, I actually just email it to myself along with the pictures so that I can create a trip report much easier than trying to go back to a notebook or some other kind of device in order to take the notes. So that has become really indispensable in my job.
Do you
And
type
then
the notes in or do you voice memo them?
mostly I'm typing because
Okay.
I'm also trying to listen to what the person in front of me is saying. We dove in a bit about how busy this time of year is, and I'm never in a grower walk where I try to take more of their time than I need to. So I'm typing while I'm listening to them talk, while I'm taking pictures. I'm looking at the issues that they are discussing as we're walking the benches. And then when we turn to go down the aisle, as long as I can keep their heels in my view, I can type while I walk.
Yeah.
Your mom said never run with scissors in your hands or walk with your phone in your hand. Probably both are true, but I seem to do okay as long as I can see someone moving in front of me so that I
Right.
can kind of keep grounded about where I am.
It's a
And
skill. That is a
yeah,
skill. And notes is a skill because I'm asking because I'm trying to figure out how to use it more effectively in my day to day. So sorry
yeah.
to add
No, it's
questions to
okay.
your list, but
That's
so
great.
what's number
I
3?
think,
Oh, go
well,
ahead.
I think before I say tool number 3, I think just to riff off of that for a moment, I think a lot of the same things at every visit are things that I'm talking about. So I've sort
Hmm.
of developed my own shorthand that when it comes to my email, I kind of know what the 3 words meant, which really it's supposed to be a whole sentence. So
Okay.
that's maybe a tip
Yeah.
if you have repeated kind of things.
Right.
And then the last is kind of a fun thing. I know we're not on video today, but you can see me.
Hmm.
And just my space, I really like to have plants, house plants, different plants, flowers, fresh flowers when I'm home off the road is a must just because it creates a calmer, bit more serene space, I feel like, and it's a good chaos balancer
Yeah.
because a lot of times my brain is in chaos. So
Sure. I
just
like that. I've never thought of that. You're like the space that, I mean, I work from home too, and it's just you're in this location so much, but it is a tool because it does shift a mindset. Or
yeah.
for me, it's when I walk into and sit down at my desk, I'm in like the work zone
Yeah.
much more so than I could never walk out and sit on the couch and start working. Like I would be so distracted.
Yeah.
But you're right. I love the flowers and plants creating some serenity in a space that is work and busy.
And just talking workspaces, I feel like, when I'm in the corporate office, which I am today, I don't work with my fluorescent light on. It's distracting to me. So I like to have natural light or now a lot of places make them like a sad light for the
Hmm.
winter time, but it's more natural kind of lighting
Yeah.
in the space. And people walk by my office and want to work in here too, because that
Uh,
they say exactly what the feeling is that I'm trying to create is that it's calm, it's serene, it feels a bit mellow. So yeah,
that's
it
cool.
works.
No, I love it. And I think that's a great tool for sure. I would have never thought of that as a tool, but you're giving me a new perspective. I like it. All right, third question. And it's interesting. I think this is a good question for someone who is exploring horticulture versus agriculture versus science. Like you had a bunch of ideas as a young person. So what advice would you give to a young person considering pursuit of a career in horticulture?
Yeah, I think we need young professionals more than ever in this industry at this time because we have, greenhouses that don't have a succession plan or somebody in the family to take over. There's lots of open positions and just a variety of things that you can do in this industry that I think a lot of young professionals or students don't know about. When I was in school studying horticulture, I thought all I could do was be a grower. Like I'm
Yeah.
destined to drag a hose. That's the only thing that I can ever do because I'm in here learning about science and plants and how to grow them. But really, when you get to thinking about the list after you've been in the industry a while, there's so much more than that. So I think um, important for a student or a young professional really to just ask a lot of questions and implement the advice that they're given or try to implement some of the advice at least. The second thing would be to really stay curious about your surroundings, about your job, goes kind of to the asking questions. I think every business is better when you ask, why do we do this? And
Mhm.
maybe there is a real reason, but maybe there's not, and so that's a good one. Reach out to industry veterans. Many of us, including myself, would be willing to mentor or talk about the industry, talk about where we've been, what are some options, what are some ideas. I'm available on LinkedIn. I love this. That's this part of my job, kind of mentoring younger
Mhm.
people. So reach out, email me, LinkedIn me. And then the last one is stay humble. And I think
Mhm.
this is important for everybody, but it's an important reminder for a young person. You don't know everything. And so if we can stay humble and really stay open to advice and learning and being grounded in where you are, you're going to go far. So that's what I would
All
say.
great advice for anyone, but I definitely think for folks coming into our industry, talking to other people that have been in the industry for a while, finding a mentor. And it occurred to me while you were saying that of all the people I've talked to on this podcast as part of this little series of getting to know people, everybody's done multiple things in the industry. Like
Mm-hmm.
a lot of people have been growers and certainly came into the industry as growers, loved it. Some of them moved out of the greenhouse and back in. Some folks moved into other parts of the industry, but
Yeah.
I think it's having that exposure and experience. And you're right, there are so many different things to
I
do.
mean, for you, whoever thought you could be a horticulture writer? I mean,
Right. Yeah, I was working in a garden center and found a newspaper ad of a job about writing
yeah.
about plants. I was like, what? I didn't even know that was such a thing. Right.
Exactly. You like sales and you want a serene environment, go into sales. I mean, there's just so
Yeah.
many things when you think about it. It doesn't have to just be, well, I have a landscape design degree or I have a horticulture degree, so I'm going to be a designer, I'm going to be a grower.
Yeah.
It's so much more than that. So,
And you'd
yeah.
meet people in marketing departments that were photographers or,
Yeah.
videographers. And now they're in horticulture and love it because, we have some of the best things to take pictures of. Like it's really an interesting industry and there are a lot of different avenues to explore. And I agree, be curious, ask questions, stay humble for sure. All right. Sort of the flip side, I guess, of the previous question is question number 4. What advice would you give to an industry veteran currently dealing with burnout?
Yeah. I chose this one because maybe I should take my own advice.
Mm,
I've been here. I've been at a place where I'm really questioning everything. And is this for me anymore? Because it's just becomes too much. Certainly before I switched and came to Doom and I was there. The 7 day a week in a greenhouse with like no end was overwhelming. So the things that I would say or that have worked for me is the first is to talk to a trusted friend or colleague. And
mm,
maybe this isn't your spouse or your partner, but that's who you're venting to every night at home. And they might not be the best resource for you. So a trusted friend or colleague, someone who kind of understands you, but also maybe understands the industry, I think can be an important outlet because sometimes just venting the stress to someone who understands what you're going through is a good thing. The second thing I would say is take a break. And this is where I need to like take my own advice, like a
mhm.
true break
Yeah.
vacation where you black out the computer, you take your email off your phone, you're not answering text messages. I'm advocating for myself here that if I could do that and come back and just delete my inbox,
Yeah.
then I could really maybe unplug. But we all know that we come back from our vacation and it's like you want to take a vacation from
Yep.
the vacation.
Yeah.
So high businesses, let your people actually take a break. The third is if you're this kind of person, which I am, make a pro con list.
Mm,
Why am I doing this? What are the pros to it? What got me into it in the first place, and what are the cons? And then look at the balance, be reminded about the things that you really like. And if you look at your con list and there's things on there that can be solved by talking to your manager or to HR or to someone else in the business, maybe there's some flexibility that could be had or a bit of a job change if that's an opening. So I think that that's a good thing. And the one, which brings us back to the last question, I think same as I would say to a young person, talk to a vet. I think talking to a young person in the industry, somebody who's fresh and excited, it helps with me to be reminded about what they're passionate about and remembering what you were passionate about early in your career. And maybe you can get a zest for what it is you're doing again. So that's what I would say.
no, that's really, really good. I think that when you were talking about taking a break and calling out to companies in our industry to let their employees take a break, I was thinking about like working in a greenhouse or a garden center. And I did a panel, or I moderated a panel a couple of years ago at Cultivate that was about this. It was about and it was growers on the panel, like hardcore production growers, production managers. And they were talking about the importance of like the team around you and being able to lean on each other. And so that you could take a weekend off in spring or take 4 days off
Yeah.
and, go out and go hiking somewhere, but knowing that your team was going to cover for you and not sort of judge you or look down on you for taking that time off. So I do think that a lot of it comes down to the team you're working with, and do they respect that as well? And as long as you share it, I mean, it's if you do it, you're going to let someone else do it, and maybe they then see the value as well.
I agree. And I think you come back as a better person.
Yes.
For the team, for the business, for the whatever it is that you're doing. So I think it's an important thing to do and for team members to support.
I had a boss once say, because I was like, I'm going to be out of town, but I got to check emails and this and that. And he goes, well, you think the business is going to end because you're out of town? And it was the harsh reality of like, well, no, of course not. He's like, okay, so take a break. And yeah, I think those are all really good advice. I like the fact that you can talk to young people and get a little bit of excitement and energy. I had that at spring trials this year. Just some of the product managers from the exhibitors and companies that we went to were just so fired up about the products and, being out there a lot and 20 years of going. In my head, I was a little bit jaded. Like, how come you're that excited about a Scavola?
Yeah.
But then to see that excitement gets you fired up. Like, yeah, there is excitement about it. We can look at things with fresh eyes, and it does, I guess, help to alleviate any burnout or negativity in your head.
Just last week, I had the opportunity to sort of do a guest speaking in a classroom at Purdue.
Okay.
And it does work to get re-energized. I mean, those kids were really engaged, which surprised me a little bit, I think, wanting to ask questions and answer the questions I asked them. And yeah, it really got me jazzed about what I'm doing.
That's cool. We always need that. Well, Kelly, thank you so much. This has been fun. Thank you for your time. Thank you for all that you do for our industry. Thank you for offering your LinkedIn up to folks who might have questions. I think that's really, really cool. And I would encourage the listeners to take Kelly up on it. She's done a lot of things. I know that you're a great person to talk to. Thank you for being my wife's best friend. And that is a little Easter egg for listeners who stick around to the end. But thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Bill. Always great to talk to you.
Definitely, you too. And I think that wraps up this episode of Tech on Demand, but I can't close without reminding you to subscribe, share the podcast with your peers. There are like 250 episodes in the archive covering a wide range of topics, something for everyone in professional horticulture, garden center retail, landscape, CEA, production, and much more. Take care out there.